1. We're live.
We're live. Good morning. Good morning.
Steve the Texan beat Stephen Lang.
Those two.
Good morning, Bookish.
Good morning,
should
everybody.
I say Gracie?
Wow, look at all these people joining. Wow.
Hello, Sophie.
Aw. Welcome, everybody. Is it Wednesday already? We're in hump day territory.
Scary.
The Gayatola's happy. More on the Gayatola on Friday.
Yes.
Oh,
I threw that in just for fun a few minutes before.
Made my day. Good morning, everybody.
Apparently, there are some that are even worse that were not included in the article.
Yes.
Interesting.
Good morning, Sandy. People saying hello to me too. Scott. You guys and Scott have the best audience. You're all so nice.
No, the best people on the planet for sure.
Yeah. Of all the podcasts I do, because regular radio I do as regularly as well. That could turn into podcast. Everybody's so hostile, but you guys are all just always so nice. It's so refreshing.
I agree. I tell them that all the time. I look over, I see their comments. Even the trolls are fine. Like there's a couple of trolls, and I'm like, you know what? They're special too. They're here. They're a smarter troll, if anything.
I think Scott conditioned them with his occasional rants to just get them to pipe down or leave.
Yeah.
I love that. You guys, is everybody in? I mean, some people tell me to wait longer. Some people are like, hurry up. I know. And I also want a sip of coffee in the worst way possible. So are you ready? I'm ready. Here we go. Grab a vessel.
I've got one.
Wow. Is it my imagination or do you get better looking every day? I think you do. It's because you're smarter. You're more fit. You're just sort of a better person than you used to be. It's going in the right direction. Good work on that. But if you'd like to make your day even better than it already is, I've got a suggestion for you, and it's something called the simultaneous sip, and it doesn't take much. All it takes is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice or stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure, the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. Go. That's good. That's good. So looking good.
Work for me. Wait, how funny is that? Once again, I did not preview that sip, and there was Scott saying exactly what we just said, that this is like a smarter, better looking, more fit group of people. So congratulations to all of us. My name is Erica. You can see who we have here with us today, Owen and Marcela, and returning BJ Dichter, honkingforfreedom.com. So y'all, welcome to the Scott Adams School. I meant to mention that too. I have a visual update for you, okay, on my little punch monkey and his girlfriend, Momo, which someone in the chat will have to tell me, I think translates to peaches or dumpling.
Wait, he's got a girlfriend now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Look at him. He's balling. Now he's accepted and he's got the girl. It's so great.
I can't. I'm so obsessed with this little monkey. Okay, let me see. I hope this works. Okay, I am very slow today on the PC. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Punchy's loading. And I want you guys, so he's the darker of the two, okay? He's the darker little baby. Here we go. I hope this works.
I would never fall in love again until I found her. I said I would never fall unless it's you I'm falling to. I was lost within the darkness, but then I found her. I found you.
Oh my God. And I want you to know the last little image, he's like, it looks like he's kissing her, but like their little noses are together and his eyes are closed. So sweet. So sweet. Okay. That was my girly, whiny voice for the morning. That's it. I'm done. Okay. So you guys, BJ's here. We've got a newsy show for you. And Marcela and Owen have picked some news topics for us. And I think Marcela's going to kick us off today. Is that right, Marcela? Look, Marcela, look how cute you look today. You look beautiful.
YouTube, do not give us a copyright infringement thing.
Oh, yeah. That was allegedly Punch. And that was allegedly a song.
Allegedly a song.
Yeah.
So we have we have lots of good news, and the bad news we'll try to make it into good. So that's our theme of the day. There was a meteor that sonic boomed into Ohio, and it took up 10 different states were able to hear the fire, were able to see it and hear it. People said it was like an earthquake. It felt like an earthquake. And I don't know if there's anybody in the chat that felt it or saw it. Some of the people out there in Ohio. So it was Northeast Ohio. The meteor lit up Cleveland area. It was 7 tons meteor streaked across the sky, 40,000 miles per hour. Allegedly, NASA says it was a meteor. That's alleged. And then California couldn't couldn't stay, they want to be first in fraud, first in everything. So they had to have some kind of streak going in the sky in Garden Grove, Orange County, California. It was recorded at around the same time or something. And basically they're saying that's just probably nothing. It was probably not SpaceX, but it was probably some kind of airplane fuel. They don't know.
Wait, did you see that one in California? It was like making left and right turns and looping around.
Yeah, allegedly.
I mean, allegedly. It was a clear video, that's for sure. Scott always says, can we ever get non-grainy video?
It was a clear video.
Yeah, it was pretty clear.
That's a good point.
I'm going to ask BJ to weigh in on all of this.
No Canadian meteor.
Not yet.
It's very funny. For a few years, I had mentioned before, I produce a podcast for an intelligence analyst. And he's military, into Canadian military. And I asked him once about what do you think about UFOs? Like, we were on a long drive somewhere, or whatever. He said, it's funny. Him and another guy were asked by a senior general in the Canadian military to look through all the UFO files in Canada. I said, what, are you kidding? He said, yeah. We had like 8 days just to go through everything, all the claims we have that have been reported to the Canadian government over like 30 years. And he said it was just boxes and boxes. And I said, so what'd you find out? He said, nothing, just a bunch of really weird, crazy people that clearly were, as Scott liked to say, 80% of Twitter or X are drunk or inebriated. He said that's mostly what it was, just drunk people hallucinating.
Aww.
So do you think it's all fake? Do you think there are no aliens or UFOs or real craft?
I mean, I remain open-minded. I can always be convinced, but yeah, I'm pretty sure most of it is our tech. It's because it's funny how as our technology advances, the more claims of what we see. They have like this F-47 that finally is being, unveiled shortly. Well, for how many years was advanced technology being tested that we never knew about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will say what's interesting, having lived in Latin America, maybe Marcela, you can weigh in on this. There's so many UFO sightings in Mexico in particular, which is close to America, by the way. And I remember asking people like, well, what do you think? There's been reports of lights over Mexico City hovering there for like hours. It's like, we don't care. We're too busy. That's just their attitude. They're just like, if something bad's going to happen, we'll find out, and we just got to go on with our lives,
I think we've done this before, but everybody listening in the chat, real or fake? Real or fake? Like, what do you think about the alien stuff? Real or fake? We want to see what you think. What do you think, Owen?
I think 99.9% of it's fake, but I wouldn't. I at least would say I'm open-minded, and I want to believe that it's real. I want to believe that there is stuff out there. Although I would probably say it's much more likely, and I think Scott said something similar, that if there is something, it probably isn't from another planet.
Yeah.
It's probably from here, from maybe some ancient civilization like a drone or something that is still around from thousands of years ago. And there may be there may have been something like pre-flood that just survived. It might have been covered in ice for a while or hidden somewhere, or it might still be hiding in the oceans. And I think it would be much more likely to be from here. Or, there's also the theory that it's some spiritual thing like angels or demons, and that may be a possibility too, that there is, some way for them to kind of cross over or make themselves seen, and there could be something related to that too.
I think it's what Scott would describe. This is how I look at it, and Owen, I'm sure you, and the rest of you probably look at it the same way. It's a great luxury belief, right? Or recreational belief. That recreationally, I hope there's aliens, and yeah, of course there are, but realistically, no, they're not. But that's how I see it.
Have any of you ever seen anything that you thought maybe was? Marcela, me too, Marcela.
Yeah.
I have not. I have not ever had any personal experience like that, but
Well,
I'd like to. I'd like to see it.
Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. That, and when you see something like that, you realize that there's just magical things that happen naturally, and you can imagine an uneducated society how they could have responded to that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm not
building a spaceship.
Yeah, yeah. I do wish there were aliens. That would be amazing. But
Says an alien. Just kidding.
until they come over and take over all our cities and enslave us all.
Well, give us some excitement and some problems to deal with. We can focus on not fighting each other and focus on something external, right?
Yeah, they could unite us. Look at that.
Brian Romilly says it's coming, so I think he's on the other side of this. He said he's going to come back maybe a few months from now and tell us the truth.
Cool, that would be awesome.
Yeah, July.
So there's a connecting story that Owen talked about earlier a few weeks back. Sort of connected. It could be connected. So suspense music inside your brain. An aerospace engineer, Monica Jacinto Reza, was a co-inventor of a key U.S. rocket, Alloyd, banished while hiking in 2025. In months later, which is the news that we gave you, Major General William Neal McCaslin, who oversaw the program that funded the program that she worked in, also banished while hiking, wearing boots, and somewhere, I don't know, probably in the West, Utah, I don't know. But he still hasn't been found. She hasn't been found. So the idea was, I don't know. It most likely is just a random thing, but they both worked in the same thing. They both have intelligence. I don't know.
Moral of the story is don't hike alone.
Yes.
Well, you could get lost together, I guess, too. Just don't hike.
Maybe the moral of the story is don't work on UFOs.
Yeah, there's that too.
Alleged UFOs, right, Marcela? Alleged UFOs.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think they can sue us, but maybe
The UFOs are going to file a lawsuit.
They're
Well, that would
like,
blow their cover, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the
And we don't
closest
want to
I've
see a
come is
legit for them.
when I was in the Army, I went to JRTC, which is this place out in, I guess it's Texas, but it might be near Nevada or something like that. And apparently, I was told while I was there, he's like, hey, we're actually really close to Area 51. So I was probably close to there at one point, but didn't see anything.
Don't you think Area 51 is like the Gayatollah? Like it's the little diversion. It's like, here's Area 51. But meanwhile, like Area 406 is really where it's at.
Well, I have to imagine that if it ever was real, like if it, if they brought all the Roswell stuff there and the live biologics, whatever they had, that once it became this public thing, they would have, of course, moved everything. I mean, that's the first thing you would do, is to say, let's get rid of all this stuff and move it somewhere else. And I do think it's much more likely in that case that it is just used as a place to test new technology, and therefore it looks really weird from time to time where you see things you've never seen before. But I think it would probably be more likely they would find some other place in some other desert to keep it secret. But I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting theory. It's fun to talk about, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I post stories every once in a while just because they're fun. But
DJ
yeah.
said Area 404, page not found.
There
I
you
like
go.
that one. All right, Marcela, give us another tidbit.
Well, the SAVE Act. Well, hold on. Did I misspoke? I misspoke.
Yeah, let
Save
everybody-
America Act.
Okay.
It's the Save America Act. Trump tweeted today, for all the fake news out there, I don't want to be fake news. It's called the Save America Act, not the SAVE Act. Nobody knows what the SAVE Act means. So the Save America Act, when finally Tune got brave, if I want to put it in a better way, he finally put it through a vote for it to actually be voted on. So this is not the vote for the vote. I mean, this is the vote for the vote, not the actual vote. So they voted on it yesterday, 51-48. There was a few losers that voted against it. I think what is her name? Markowski.
Ugh,
Somebody put it in the chat.
Murkowski.
Yeah, she voted against it. Tim Tillis, Tillis did not show for the vote. Basically, it's advancing. And one of the things finally, Toon is saying that now they're going to have, the Democrats are going to be on the record being against having, as you recall, some of you might not remember, the Save America Act is to require voters to show ID that they are American, that they can vote, and that they are citizens. In order to vote, you have to be a citizen. So either a passport or birth certificate in order to vote and to register for federal elections. A lot of critics came out against it from the Democratic Party. One of them was Chuck Schumer. In a video clip, he said that, what is it? It's cynical. It's beneath. Wait, I don't have glasses.
He's so full of it and he knows it, and it's just so
He's
gross.
with the little glasses.
Don't trigger me, Marcela.
It's cynical. It's beneath the Senate. It's beneath democracy to actually, so allegedly it's beneath democracy in order to prove you're a citizen or to vote. I don't know how that is. They never answer that. They just talk about it. But anyways, it's on its way, but now they get to filibuster, and they haven't made it a rule for it to be a talk filibuster, so they can just take all this time around. Ted Cruz came out on X and said, they need to make a talkative filibuster to force them to have them actually in the Senate floor, be there for hours, talking their head off in order to delay everything. Because right now they can delay it on a pseudo filibuster. And so he wants it to be an actual talkative filibuster, but we'll see what happens.
I'm pretty pessimistic about this whole thing. I think they're going to put it up for a vote for this political theater that you were talking about, where they'll say, oh, look, the Democrats are against it and we're all for it. And of course, they won't all be for it. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mitch McConnell, who did vote to advance the bill, is probably going to flip to no, and there'll be a few others probably, and it'll just fail. But even if they do, I mean, even if they all just say, oh, I voted for it, it'll all just be for show, because if they put it forward without the filibuster, that means it needs 60 votes to pass. And then it'll be like, look, I just didn't have the votes. I did my best. And he'll claim he did everything he was supposed to do. And in fact, what he should be doing is exactly what you said, and have the talking filibuster and have 50 votes be the standard. And then they could do it. But if it ever went to that, I would then guess that McConnell and others would just turn tail and vote against it. And so I'm pretty pessimistic about it. I wish I could be more optimistic. I want it to happen. And, I'd want it to be a real process to get it actually passed. But I think this is all just political theater. They're all going to play games. They're all going to posture. They're going to have their time on the floor talking about why the Democrats are against it. The Democrats are going to say it's disenfranchising voters. And it's just all the same things we've been hearing for years.
I fear I agree with you. And never forget this, you guys. Never forget who the people you allegedly voted for, because without ID, who knows who voted, what they're doing to you. And somebody said, I'm sorry, River, somebody on YouTube said, it's the people's house, not the grift barn, but it is the grift barn, unfortunately. BJ, I want you to speak on this, but I also have a question. Do you have voter ID? Do you have to do that in Canada?
Yeah, in that racist, bigoted third world country to the
Mhm.
north, you must provide identification to vote in Canada, much like Somalia and all of South America and most of Africa and every country in the world. You have to show ID, just like when I don't know, rent a hotel room or buy prescription drugs that my doctor has assigned to me. I have to show ID. This is, and this is a good example of what Scott would talk about, and I try to talk about this framing, the gears in the machine and how it actually works. Most of politics, I think we all know, better in the US than we do in Canada, that it's really the international strategic management companies, aka lobby firms, that control your representatives. And that is often with foreign money. So it's laundered through large law firms into NGOs, and those NGOs then work with these think tanks to get legislation passed. And they have completely co-opted the leadership of the Democratic Party on certain, not every issue, obviously, but on certain issues, because the last thing they want is an independent America where the people vote, because these foreign interests that have found a loophole that they can orient American policy in their favor against the interest of the United States and its citizens. And it's so frustrating. It happens in Canada as well. But the focus is the United States, because I think part of the problem, and Americans always get upset with me for this, is you have a two-party system. I don't like that. I think that's causing chaos around the world. It causes people to think always in binary terms. Whereas Canada, which is nowhere near perfect, we do have a multi-party system, and the parties work together and they negotiate stuff, and it has some weaknesses as well. But I think it makes it more difficult for these foreign interests to capture one party or the other. It's a little bit of a buffer. It's not perfect. It has its challenges as well. But yeah, very, very concerned. And this, by the way, is with a friend of mine who's very involved in politics yesterday for coffee. They know internally, polling both in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they know this is a 90-10 issue. 90% of Americans, including all Democrats, want it, and it's still going to fail. That shows there's some serious systemic issues, and there's parts of your government that just needs to be re-engineered. It's the only way to fix it.
I think we have to really realize that, you guys, and we can make a difference. We can be useful in this. And I think you just have to get in the face, not physically, but on the phone, make noise, call your state senators, governors, congress people, everybody, and make a stink. I mean, I would say I was doing this for a long time for this one issue that has nothing to do with politics. Well, it actually does. But I had the number of my state people next to me, and I would call them every single morning. Or if you're maybe shy or nervous about speaking to somebody, call at night and leave voicemails. You can do that too. You can do it every day. I wouldn't do it like all day long, but I would do it at least once a day and let your voice be heard, because every message that they get, every voicemail, if you speak to the assistant or secretary, don't shoot me for that word, they have to give the message to their boss. So I don't know. I mean, I think that if we don't get this passed now, I don't see it coming again. I feel like this is like these once in a blue things that will come up. And if we don't make noise and get this thing passed, just forget it. Like, we already know that our voting is corrupt. I mean, come on, it is. I mean, even the Democrats, they're like, oh, like Jasmine Crockett, like I didn't win. And now she's like, it's rigged. It's like, oh, but I thought that they're all just so perfect, these elections. No, it's rigged. Okay. So we have, it's our future is on the line. Our country is on the line.
Today I learned Jasmine Crockett is a racist.
What?
She
No.
dared challenge an election result. That equals racist by definition, right? Isn't that the way it works there? That's their rules.
Yes.
Mhm.
She's probably a Nazi too. Anything goes.
Yeah.
At least
Okay.
she's not against having
Yeah.
criminal felons
Right.
on her staff.
She has to employ everybody. She's equal opportunity.
Mhm.
Marcela, save us with the SAVE Act.
Well, the next story, it's we're getting into a little bit more hot water with the next one. Joe Kent resigned yesterday, and he was the director of National Counterterrorism Center. He's a patriot, a hero, a war hero. He was a longtime Trump supporter, probably the first to criticize him officially. In his resignation letter, he claims that Iran posed no imminent threat to America and accuses the administration of starting the conflict under heavy pressure from Israel and its influential lobby here at home. Now, I have to say that Joe Kent lost his wife in war. She was the first, one of the only women that has died in combat by ISIS. And so his way of looking at things may be different than the general public or the general staff. You know, with that in mind, Tulsi Gabbard did post sort of a response. She's the director, as you know, of the National Intelligence, who he worked under her. So President Trump's, she made statements about President Trump being the commander in chief and being able to decide these things for the nation. And if he saw a imminent threat, then that is what we see as the United States, and her under him would see that as well. She said in her statement, as our commander in chief, he is responsible. This is about President Trump, for determining what is and is not an imminent threat and whether or not to take action and what actions he deems necessary. So, you know, a lot of people are saying she's not defending him, she's not doing so a lot of people are seeing it on both. One, they're saying that Gabbard is defending him, and another, she's just explaining things. Anyways, so he came out this morning. This morning he was busy. President Trump was truthing, or whatever you want to call it, the whole morning. He one of the I want to say tweet, but it's a truth that he posted was, remember, for all those absolute fools out there, Iran is considered by everyone to be and then he put this in capital letters, #1 state sponsor of terror. We're rapidly putting them out of business. That's his statement. I don't know if it was kind of connected to this, but I put it in here to clarify. I don't know. Personally, as an attorney, I think Kent is in a bit of hot water. Did he give away some intelligence by saying that in his resignation letter? I don't know. So that's just how.
BJ, I can't see Owen, so you had a more visceral reaction than Owen did. So I'm actually going to ask you to respond first.
Why don't we let Owen go first? Because I have a few things to say on this.
Okay.
That might take a minute or two.
Okay.
And I'm interested to hear Owen's perspective because he's very reasonable and centered as well. So
this is true. Okay.
Are you talking about like what Trump said, or what are you looking for a reaction to?
The scope of Joe Kent resigning.
Yeah.
Actually,
well,
just
so
that.
Okay. So first, I like Joe Kent. I think he's a reasonable guy. I think he's generally very America first, and I'm sorry to see him go. I know there were some accusations that he was leaking information. So if that's true, then I guess it would make sense that they would get rid of him, because that would be a pretty bad thing to have done. But I don't want to say anything bad about Joe. I remember when he was running for office, and it was like he didn't get a lot of support from the Republican Party, but he eventually
got this position in the Trump administration, and I was happy about that. And again, I'm sorry to see him go. I think again, it's hard to know what the truth is, because you're going to get two sides to the story, and I'm sure Joe would probably deny that he leaked anything. I remember, I know there's all these older tweets popping up too from Joe saying that he wanted us to take out Iran, he wanted us to take out the nuclear stuff, and now it seems like he's saying the exact opposite. But I would give him some grace on that as well, just because saying you want that to happen is very different than saying how you think it should happen. And he may have disagreements with the way things are being done, or the scope of what's being done, or what, the risk that we're putting ourselves in. And so I don't necessarily see those as inconsistent either, the way a lot of people are trying to portray it. So I think a lot of this is kind of not really fair to Joe. And I do wish him the best, but again, I can't say what's true or not. If I take it at face value and say that he was leaking information, then I certainly understand why they would get rid of him. And, that makes sense. But again, it's hard to know. I mean, unless they're going to criminally charge him and prove it in court, I don't know how to know whether or not he did that or what he did exactly.
Mm-hmm. BJ?
Yeah, I think it's frustrating for me, from my perspective, that it's not people's fault, but I think we generally have a very superficial understanding how geopolitics works. And so when they throw out terms like, this country is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism, and sometimes one day it's Qatar, one day it's Iran, and they're both equally. We're using the biggest or the worst a little bit too hyperbolically, even though I agree with it. So I look at it this way: we have this problem in spades in Canada. People need to understand how Iran operates, and it's quite complex, but how they operate in the West. And I think this is where people get lost in the nuance. And what I like about you, Owen, with all your posts, you're very sensitive to highlighting the nuance of situations. And sometimes things aren't so black and white. There's a lot of gray area. A perfect example, if you want to understand how Iran operates around the world and in the United States and in Canada, is to look at there's a documentary on Netflix called Nisman, the Prosecutor, the President, and the Spy. And it's about the AMIA attack in Argentina in the 1990s. I think it was 92 or 94, something like that. And it shows the event of AMIA and then the prosecutor who was killed, like Jeffrey Epstein, and under spurious circumstances. And the President Kushner, the far leftist, was involved in Hezbollah. That was a Hezbollah attack. They do, and I'm encouraging everybody to watch this as an example, and I'm going to just get to what's happening today, as an example of why politicians always say they're such a great sponsor of terrorism and why they're so dangerous. In this particular case, what this documentary missed, and this is the key, this is very, very important, is, and it comes to today, that prior to the bombing in Argentina, which was Hezbollah, which is Iran, that's their proxy, that's Iranian money, the president at that time was Carlos Menem. And Carlos Menem was elected on a leftist platform, and he was president from 89 to 99. However, once he was elected, he went economically right-wing, okay? That's that period of time where inflation was under control and Argentina started to recover because they abandoned all the leftism that they used to get elected. That was their Minister of the Economy, Domingo Caballo. Or I think in Argentinian Spanish they say Caballo. Anyways, his wife was key in Carlos Menem getting elected. She had connections to lots of money around the world. She happened to be a Syrian pro-Islamist lefty. So this is another example of foreign money, and this has been going on for a long time. That's how he got elected, which is why she divorced him 2 years after he got elected and took a U-turn and went a right-wing economically. So the retaliation started from Hezbollah, when his son, Carlos Menem Jr., mysteriously died in a helicopter crash that was very suspicious, much like the 5 people who were the only witnesses of Bukele's national security advisor who was tortured and murdered under custody. They too died in a suspicious helicopter, and ties to the same sort of international regimes. So they're very careful and they're very subversive. And this is what led to the Amia bombing. Why? Because once the leftist government of Menem got elected, once you get into power, you start to get access to intel from all over the world, from embassies all over the world. Now you're in the seat, now you get to see what's actually going on behind the scenes. And apparently, one of the things that Israel does for many Western nations is when there is Iran or Hezbollah activity and they're building infrastructure in a country, they contact that country's intel services to say, hey, these are the bad guys on the ground. We suggest you do something about it. And we know because they're constantly attacking us in Israel as well. You do what you want with it. And that apparently is what caused them to take a right turn. They realized how bad the degrees of political entryism was into Argentina. And because they used Israeli information that was collected in Syria, that is why they bombed the that was why the Amia bombing occurred. Now, from there, go watch the documentary. It will give you a clear eye as to why they're so dangerous, because these people get elected into governments in our countries. And in the case of the Amia bombing, there was a think tank out of Washington, D.C., that worked and collaborated with Argentina and Alberto Nisman, who basically got Kushner and the leftists and Hezbollah all working. He had them nailed. He was going to nail them to the wall in his testimony. And the night before he happened to get killed, or as they say, he committed suicide. Sounds familiar. And that think tank that was working with the US government trying to help Argentina purge this Hezbollah entryism from within their government was an organization that's still active today called FDD. And it was founded by a Christian Zionist named Richard Carlson. Yes, Tucker Carlson's father. So much of what goes on in the world, it's not only is it so connected, but it lends itself so much to what Scott always said. If you know the news, you don't know anything. If you know who is the news, now you understand how the pieces fit together. And this is a perfect example. And in Canada's case right now, luckily we just got rid of in I think the last election cycle, we had a member of parliament named Majid Johari. Majid Johari, we knew Canadian intel, law enforcement, everybody knew, was Iranian IRGC, because they built enough infrastructure within Canada, put a ton of money to get this guy elected into Canada, into the Canadian government. Because once you get elected, like I said before, now you get access to classified information sometimes, depending on what committee you're in. You get access to what's going on with that country, and you can leak it back home. And this is why, in the case of Canada, when President Stephen Harper was prime minister, he closed the Iranian embassy. Why? Iranian embassies around the world are used as central collection agencies for intel, but to harass and extort members of the Iranian diaspora all over the world. And the Chinese do this too. I explained this once about Ai Weiwei. What they'll do is they'll monitor the Iranian community in the United States and California and say, you get out of line. We know your uncle, he owns the bakery in Tehran. Why don't we just go torture him for a few months? This is why it's so dangerous to have those people in the Western governments, to give them power through this device of political entryism that they use. So we get this idea that they're a big funder of terrorism, a state sponsor of terrorism, and they're so dangerous. We always think, yeah, bombs are going off. That's part of it, but it's more the subversive elements within the country, gathering intel, learning technology, finding about drone programs, and sending it back to the countries who loudly chant the death to America. That's why I call them the death to America people. And it's astonishing that people want to run cover for Death to America people and then claim that they're America first. It's very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the updating to the news story, you know, Joe Kent spoke about how he was sort of against, you know, Israel having a lot of sway with President Trump. But in one of our viewers sent me something that updated. Mark Levin posted on X that he wanted to have an interview with Joe Kent. As you know, Mark Levin sort of in people's mind represents Israel or Israel first.
It's pro-Israel, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in people's minds. And so he said Joe Kent is going to appear in his show. He said,
Great.
Sure, let's go.
Great.
And that'd be great for them to speak. And I do want to confirm or highlight that Joe Kent was resigned. Tulsi never fired him or anything, or neither did the administration. They allowed him to decide. But I do also want to highlight something that somebody highlighted in Locals or YouTube, I'm not sure which, is that I don't know full background, but I think Joe Kent had issues with Trump and with the briefings that they give, intelligence briefings that they give Trump. Joe Kent has already been anti-war. And, you know, for whatever reason, during the briefings that are given to the president, Joe Kent was not involved. So he was not actually at the briefings. I don't know if that means that some intelligence, that he's counterintelligence, but he might not be overseeing all intelligence that goes to the president. Maybe that's the difference. I actually don't see a difference between President Trump and Joe Kent. I think Joe Kent has decided in his own mind that there's no inherent danger, or how you would see it. But, you know, as president, a president can decide if they have certain other information, like you were talking about, BJ. There's so many different connecting parts that maybe the totality of the circumstances led to the attack and led to take out the leadership, the supreme leader in Iran. So.
Yeah, I think that actually relates to what we're seeing with Tucker Carlson. When you saw that picture of Tucker Carlson in the White House, I think that was a canary trap, to be honest. That's related to all of this, which is why he might be in very big trouble, to be honest. By the way, amazing comment from Sean here, said, BJ is sounding like the Canadian Mike Benz. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. I appreciate it. Very cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So,
actually, I want to see if Owen wants to respond to any of that.
Yeah, one more thing just before Owen starts, and I'm curious what you would think of this, Owen. You know, part of the reason I just couldn't go the distance for many, many years in politics. People have to understand that politics is strange. Somebody told me a long time ago, political parties are cults, and they're different in one way. They're cults where everyone within the cult hates each other and is stabbing each other in the back. It's just the weirdest, most negative environment you can ever be in. That's why I kind of keep away from it. I guess I like positive energy. There's no positive energy in political parties. And there's everybody's got an axe to grind with somebody else. They're all politicians, which you know you can't trust. I'm sorry. Like, I've put my faith in politicians many, many times who end up stabbing me and other people in the back. That's just the games of politics. And maybe in this case, maybe Joe felt stabbed in the back a number of times, and this was his retribution. This wouldn't be the first time. This happens a lot. But it would be very interesting to see the conversation with him and Mark Levin. And I think we need to do more of that. When people are completely at odds with each other, don't just shut each other out. Just have a public conversation and find the areas where you agree and the areas where you agree to disagree, but just do it respectfully, which is, I think, why we all love your platform and what Scott built, because that was kind of his ethos, wasn't it? But anyways, just my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, I certainly agree that it's a dirty business. I don't know if it was on West Wing or one of the other political drama shows where they said, if you want a friend in DC, get a dog.
Yeah, Truman.
like you can't really trust anybody, and there are all these agendas. There's lobbyists, there's blackmail, there's bribes, there's all sorts of things going on all over the place. And I certainly have gotten more jaded the more I paid attention to it. I think when I was young, like in my 20s, I didn't really pay much attention to politics, but I had already come to the conclusion, like, these guys are just out for themselves. They're not really out for the American people. They're doing what's best for their interests, whether that's getting reelected or getting more campaign dollars to slush around for other people or just to gain power. And so it's a big Game of Thrones sort of environment. And that stuff is going to happen. And I've certainly learned more about that in the business world, just in terms of the politics that are played, where people play games to get power or to, manipulate other people and things like that. And it just gave me a little bit of a microcosm of what I imagine is always happening in places like Congress. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any reason to believe that it's unified or that everybody's always pulling in the same direction. And that's not what we see today. And I wish we would see more unification, at least to get things like the Save America Act through, and some of the things where 80 or 90% of the people want this. It would seem like you should be able to come together and do these things, but it seems pretty rare that people actually do come together and say, we're going to get this thing passed, or we're going to make a real positive change. So I'd certainly like to see more of that. I'd also like to see more collaboration across the aisle. But to your point, with the two-party system, it's kind of hard, and it's gotten worse, I think, over the last probably 10, 12 years, in terms of maybe even 20 years, where it's just like nobody talks to the other side. They don't compromise anymore. They just play all these political theater games like we're seeing with the TSA or DHS funding, where it's just a game to them. They don't really care about national security. They don't really care about what is or isn't funded. And they all know that in the end, they're going to fund the stuff. They're going to give people all the back pay. So it's all just a game. It's all just a political show to try and just say, oh, we're going to put our stake in the ground and show people that we're fighting. But in reality, they know how it's going to end. And it's just, it's all a show. And if I go back to the Iran situation, I mean, I think the way I try and make sense of it, at least, is it seems to me that Trump decided, okay, now is the time. We have to do it now, and it's important to resolve this. And I do appreciate that part about Trump, that he wants to finish things. He wants to make things fundamentally different than they have been in the past, in ways that many other presidents just aren't courageous enough to do. That they're, they always kick the can down the road. They always just say, oh, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to make any big change. We're just going to keep things going the way they have been. Maybe they'll fund one side to fight the other side, or they'll try and destabilize things and get people to fight with each other in the Middle East. But nothing ever really changes. It's just back and forth, back and forth. Suddenly we're funding Al Qaeda, then we're fighting Al Qaeda, and it's just ridiculous. And I think I do appreciate that Trump is saying, enough of this. We're going to put an end to this. And I'm hoping that's the result. I don't know if it will be. And I totally understand the argument against it. I get it completely. And I'm not arguing that he's doing necessarily the right thing or the best thing or doing it the best way. But I do think that I think I understand what he's going for, which is he wants to have fundamentally a more peaceful Middle East, and he wants to get rid of the root cause of all this terrorism. And so I think my hope is that he'll at least accomplish that. And at a minimum, I guess the worst case, hopefully, is that he'll set them back 10 or 15 or 20 years, and we won't have to worry about any significant threats for many years to come. Even if the regime somehow ends up surviving this and they come back eventually, they'll probably come back much weaker, and it'll be something that hopefully another president will be able to deal with much more easily in the future. But I do think there's a real terrorism threat there. I think it's pretty obvious that they have been funding this all around the world. Whether it's Hezbollah or the Houthis or, people in Qatar or other stuff. And certainly there are real threats to America, that have come from Iran, and they've tried to assassinate the president, I think at least 2 or 3 times, according to the U.S. government at least. And so, I think Trump might take that a little personally, and I can understand that as well. So, I from there, I kind of just take a step back and say, okay, I can't control any of this stuff. I can't make any of these decisions. I can't really affect what's going on. So I'm just trying to make sense of it and hopefully see kind of how I think it might turn out and what the possibilities are. Because for the most part, I can't really affect the actual events, and I just have to hope for the best outcome we can have for America.
And I think also, Owen, I'm sure, I think you'll all agree with this. This is kind of how the framing that I look at it. Like, what did Trump say when he got elected the first time and the second time? No stupid wars, no new wars. But the United States has been at war through proxy with Venezuela, with Iran for many, many years. And who else? Who else has he taken out? And Cuba. He is fixing, I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to fix all the boomer problems, like all the problems from the 19th century that have lingered on for decades. I think his approach is like, okay, let's just fix all of that. Let's do the Monroe Doctrine, secure the Western Hemisphere. If Europe wants to implode, that's their problem. We'll try to help, but we're not going to, if they don't want to help themselves, that's their problem. And we're just going to secure America's interest in the Western Hemisphere. And by the way, the Monroe Doctrine also includes Canada. So that's going to be very interesting once Cuba is settled, which from what I'm hearing is weeks away.
You guys, just want to take a second to say this is such a great conversation. It's an important conversation. So I know you're enjoying having BJ here with us. So if you're enjoying any part of today's program, please hit the like, the subscribe, the little heart on Locals. It really helps us so we can keep going and keep having all sorts of conversations. I kind of want to wrap up the Iran thing right now because it's like, by tomorrow it's going to be a whole other story.
Well, just one comment, because somebody posted, a few people posted this, that Joe Kent is going to be on with Tucker Carlson tonight. And to which I say, what would Scott always say? Be aware of the documentary effect, especially if it confirms your own biases.
And then he'll be on Mark Levin.
Which is perfect. That's right. What we need.
Watch both. Like if you're going to watch one, watch the other.
That's right.
Just turn the volume down on Levin because your ears might burn out.
He's a little,
They said he was like just screaming about Joe Kent for 3 hours last night. I can imagine. I really feel like the guy's going to have a heart attack right on camera. I'm like, dude.
He's certainly passionate.
Right? So can we just grab another story, Owen or Marcela, just to kind of take down our temperature
Something
a little?
Positive.
Or just not Iran.
That's positive.
James O'Keefe went undercover as a homeless person in Skid Row in Los Angeles. The funny part about this is that I think of Scott and how like he would always make fun of James O'Keefe because James O'Keefe would always go undercover, but he looked just like himself.
Yeah. And he's like 9 feet tall. Like, how do you not see
like, this is Marcela, and then this is not Marcela, So it's funny because, I could do that. I could go undercover in Skid Row if you guys want me to, but
at least Clark
maybe it'll be dangerous. Right? But he dressed up as a unhoused person, and basically while being undercover, he investigated, and maybe he just, as a good investigator, he allowed things to take course. And one of the things was that he was being bribed as a homeless, unhoused person with either cigarettes, marijuana, anything else for voter registration, for them to sign voter registration. And when you have to do that in California, you have to write your name, but also where you live. And if you're homeless, you don't, technically, sometimes they do have an address, but sometimes they don't. So they would put something like whatever name, street, fake streets on it. So this is all on video. Legally, he can't really use the video. Sorry to say, because he would have to say that they're on video, meaning that if he had a hidden camera, whatever was said in the hidden video footage of the camera can't be used against these people, because that's against the evidence code in California and in other states and in federal court. So that's going to be an issue for prosecutors. But basically, he has people paying him, bribing him to sign voter registration. And these are people, the majority of them are American. So they have, so the Save America Act wouldn't really influence this. But after this was done, and he has the video on his X, probably on YouTube as well. And after all of this, Governor Gavin Newsom's office quickly contacted him. LA Mayor Karen Bass contacted him as well. And basically, the district attorney of Los Angeles was contacting him. Again, I don't see any possibility of charges. Maybe there is some possibility based on his own statements that are made, but undercover camera footage only goes to show the problem. But
Yeah, let
can't
me.
be used in court. But
We only
anyways,
have a few minutes left. So, BJ, could you quickly give your point of view on this?
I don't know. I haven't seen the video, but
Okay.
like I said, I think at least Clark Kent wore glasses. But what are you gonna? I think this is one of the things we got to look a little bit more into. You're going to see there's so much fraud that goes on. I mean, in Canada too, NGOs and all these social justice causes. They're just mechanisms for great amounts of fraud to steal taxpayer dollars and often funnel them around the world. I mean, I was involved in a couple of cases where we caught them doing exactly that, and stuff was tens of millions of dollars was ending up in Africa. Why? Well, because some guy needed to buy himself a Bentley in the middle of whatever African country it is. Like they that's the problem with the open system and no checks and balances. Most of the world are scam artists. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Not most people, but most countries in the world. It's the scam artists who have the most leverage, and some may say it's members of Congress as well. I don't know.
I thought that was weird, Montreal. So, BJ, I think we'll talk about it off camera, but I think you're maybe coming on next week. But we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I know we had discussed something about that, but can you remember, we absolutely have to talk about what's below here about the police visiting people in Canada, going to their doors for social media posts.
Yeah.
That's a huge topic that we absolutely don't have time for right now. But Montreal Galaxy, I promise you guys always remind me, okay? I was wondering why you wanted to know about that. So listen, we only have a few minutes left, and Owen, can you touch on the thing, the James O'Keefe story real quick before we close out?
Well, I mean, I think it's great to expose these things. Whether or not it can be used in criminal court or not, it is a separate issue in my mind. I do think if you see a homeless person that suspiciously smells good, that might be a tip off. So tip for the fraudsters. But, I do love what James is doing, and I think we need more of that. I think we need, as much exposure to these things. I love what Nick Shirley's doing with all the fraud in California now, and spreading it beyond just Minnesota. And so the more we can bring transparency to these things, the better, in my opinion. And I think, again, it's a separate process to go through the legal process to clean up all these things. But I think, anything we can do to expose the corruption will hopefully move things in the right direction. And it sounds like that's what's happening here. If you're saying that the government reached out to him, then they're probably thinking, okay, we got to do something about this because he brought attention to it. And if he hadn't brought attention to it, they probably would have not even known about it, or they might have known about it and just said, we don't have to do anything about it because nobody's talking about it. So I think it's an example where people can really make a difference just by shedding light on what's going on.
100%. You guys, amazing show. The comments were off the charts. I hope you guys are okay with me randomly posting your comment on the screen, because now I know I have a new feature to play with, and I would love to continue highlighting that. And you guys, you have the best comments. You're the smartest people here. Scott Scott cultivated the best group ever. Tonight at 8 p.m. on locals only, subscribers only, I will be on again with Kev Summers, our favorite Kev on locals. Sorry, other Kevs, you're also our favorites. We're going to be interviewing, not even interviewing. We're going to be chatting with Lisa DePasquale, who is a commentator and author, a huge fan of Scott's forever. And it's not a girl conversation. It's just a chitty chat night. And everybody, please come visit us. Okay. We're going to be talking about her book and all sorts of stuff about Scott. And I just think it'll be fun. So 8:00, we'll be on for like an hour or so. So come visit us there. Okay, you guys, tomorrow we have Walter Kern. Walter Kern will be on with us. And you guys, make sure you send us questions. I'll post a link after the show on X and on locals, and drop your questions in there that you want us to ask Walter. I know someone wants to know how he gets his hair done so nice, so we'll make sure we ask him that. And you guys, thank you so much. BJ, thank you so much for coming on with us.
And remember, The Prosecutor, the President, and the Spy on Netflix, The Killing of Alberto Nisman. That will teach you a lot of how all this works.
Say it one more time.
Nisman, The Killing of Alberto Nisman, The Prosecutor, the President, and the Spy on Netflix. Watch it. It'll open your eyes tremendously.
Okay. I know a lot of you were wondering what that documentary was. There you go. All right, you guys, let's get out in the world today. Let's touch some grass. Let's be useful. Let's keep thinking forward and positively and create your luck. Okay. Start by moving your pinky if you're stuck. And let's have a closing sip to Scott and Shelley. Thank you so much for letting us keep going on here on Scott's platform. So you guys, let's have a closing sip to Scott. And always remember, be useful. To Scott.
Be useful.
Scott.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
This is not brand promotion, by the way. All right. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.